It's This Week in Missouri Politics from Kansas City. The Chiefs, Barbecue, Boulevard Beer, and now This Week in Missouri Politics. We're thrilled to be broadcasting here from the plaza, joined by our first guest from Kansas City, Lee Summit's own House Majority Floor Leader, Representative Mike Serpoy. Thank you for joining us here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you for asking me, Scott. I appreciate it.
It is an awesome time. What are we, 9 days out now about from the election? Probably the most interesting election of my lifetime. Let's start with the Senate race. Senator Blunt is in a fight now. I think everybody realizes he's in a dogfight. Does he win, and how does he do it?
I think he'll win. I think you're right, though. I think it's closer than a lot of us was hoping for. It's been an interesting race, but I think the senator is getting his legs under him. I think his campaign has improved. I think he's turned a corner, and I'm feeling better and better every day. It
looked like maybe even a week ago, Jason Kander had a marginal lead. It seems like something in the air. It seems like more neck and neck now.
It is. I think, like I said, I think Senator Blunt's coming on. I think for far too long, I think that Mr. Kander was not viewed as he is. He's farther left than I think a lot of people realize. His campaign did a good job of making him look more middle of the road.
Jason Kander was elected before you were, right?
He was.
So that was. I think a race that may be shaping some of this is the presidential race, though, with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. An amazing race. It's almost a race to the bottom. It's who do you hate the least sometimes, right? In Missouri, though, it looks like we had a poll the Missouri Times did this week that showed Missourians hate Donald Trump the least by about 11 points. If he stays up around 10 or 11 points, maybe they win all the statewide offices?
I think there's a chance of that. I think that's 10, 11, 12, I think is the magic number for us.
Wow, you think you can get to 12?
I think so. It just depends what happens the last couple of weeks. But with WikiLeaks and some other things, and we have our own issues on our side, so we'll just wait to see what happens.
I think one of the races that it's been such a captivating governor's race. I mean, if you don't like watching this governor's race, you just don't like politics. It's not enjoyable. But this race with Donald Trump, we've noticed as he increases that lead, Donald Trump doesn't have normal Republican coattails. He's probably not a normal Republican, but what he does have is as he moves up, you've seen Eric Greitens move up closer to Chris Koster. As Donald Trump in this week's poll we had from Remington Research here in Kansas City showed 11 points for Trump, and Greitens had closed the gap 47-45 to 2 points. Do you think those races are just tied together, whether anybody likes it or not?
They are. We found the same in some of our polling with some of our candidates that it's not a one-for-one tie, but there is a connection, obviously, from it. And I think it's true. I think the governor's race is closer than a lot of people thought it would be, and I think he's got a real shot.
Give me a prediction. Can Donald Trump win the presidency?
He can. He can. He has to stay on a positive note, at least as far as what he's doing, and hopefully no more trips.
Can Donald Trump lose Missouri?
I don't believe so. I believe that. I think unless something terrible comes out, I think he will win Missouri.
Is there a down ballot race people should watch that you know these people? You've worked with all the people running on both sides. Is there a down ballot race you think people should pay a little more attention to than they are?
The one that worries me the most, I think, is probably Lieutenant Governor. I know Mike Parson. He's a really good guy. A lot of people have forgotten how Mr. Carnahan voted in the House. He lost his seat through redistricting and then in a primary, but he voted for a lot of the Obama policies in 08 to 010, and I hope there's a way to make people remember that.
Jay Ashcroft lead the ticket, you think?
I think probably he will win by the biggest margin, yes.
Eric Schmidt looks like he's doing everything you could possibly do to win, right?
He is. Eric's another one that I think will do a really good job, too. We have got the best group of candidates, in my opinion.
Josh Hawley is a good campaigner. But now I would say of the down ballot race, he has a really tough opponent, Teresa Hensley. But Josh Hawley seems to have picked up running for statewide office very well.
I think he has. The problem with some of those races, there's so much noise being made above. I was watching the game last night, and it was on commercial TV, regular TV, and the ads sometimes they're just one after the other almost. It's hard to be noticed sometimes in some of these races.
Imagine a Cardinal fan watching the Cubs on a World Series game, then seeing a bunch of negative commercials. It's teed up perfectly.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, I want to talk about something you know a lot about. The three House races in the Kansas City area. You have Representative Kidd. Does he win re-election?
I think Bill's in good shape.
Representative Corlew, I think, is one of the most talented legislators in Jeff City. It looks like you guys have put your full weight behind re-electing him. Does he win?
I believe he does. It's a tough race, but Kevin, like you said, is a really good legislator. He is working hard, and I think it's closer than we hoped, but I think he's going to do well.
One of the most talked about House races is House District 17. Mary Hill came in, beat the incumbent, Nick King, has a really tough opponent, Mr. Ellen Brock. How do you see that race coming out, and can you give us a prediction?
That is probably the toughest race we have in this area by far, and I think if we have a decent night, Mary will win. It's that one's one that's kind of go with the tide, I think.
What do you think Donald Trump does in Missouri?
I think he wins by 11 or 12.
If he wins by, if he makes it to there, Mary Hill wins, probably Eric Greitens wins, Josh Hawley wins, Mike Parson wins.
I think that's exactly what will happen.
And you think he can really get to 12?
I think so.
I wonder what we've seen in the Missouri Times is we polled this race. We watch a lot of the other polls. We poll the race every few days. Donald Trump, when he does something like a Billy Bush interview, the attacks, the cons, he goes down to 4 or 5 points in Missouri. If he doesn't do anything for 96 hours, he bubbles right back up to 8 or 9. Now we're seeing 11. I wonder, though, if the media doesn't have not just an October surprise, but a November surprise for him. They might.
He's been on air a lot. He's been recorded a lot. I hope there's nothing worse than what he's done or what he said. But it's one of the uncertainties in this election. And it's one of the things that trouble us the most because everything's tied to what he does at some level. Like I said, it's not one-on-one, but we've seen the numbers move in some of these other races in a disturbing way when some of this stuff comes out.
Saw some Republicans lose in 06 and 08 that I thought were pretty good legislators. Saw some Democrats lose the last 3 cycles being tied to Obamacare. It looks to me like there is a bit of a November surprise for the Democrats. One issue Eric Greitens has done very well with is tying Chris Koster to Obamacare. It comes out the premiums are going to go up 20%.
They are.
Another thing, the WikiLeaks drops another thing on Hillary Clinton. I mean, can a credible person say they're not corrupt?
There's some troubling things on all the candidates. I think it's just a reflection of the times in this country. It's difficult. I think a lot of people don't feel like their government's listening to them, and I think there's just a lot of unhappiness from all quarters right now.
It looks like the Clintons are listening to people, if you're rich.
Yeah, it seems that. It's the elites, I think, have lost track. It happened in Britain. I think some of that's going on here.
Representative Sirwood, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back with our Missouri Opinion Maker panel. But first, I want to leave you with this week's leading Missouri economic indicators.
Okay, go.
It's time for early childhood education.
Adults, every child in Missouri deserves pre-K. Hey, wait for me.
Investing in our education will improve the economy.
Preparing kids like me for better jobs. Raising graduation rates.
Missouri has the lowest cigarette tax in the nation.
If you don't smoke, you don't pay. Politicians can't touch any of the money.
Not a dime.
Sorry, politicians, it's for our education.
Vote yes.
Your children deserve it.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
For years, Jason Kander's been trying to create a liberal majority.
They're going to call you pinkos, commies, lefties, activists, liberals, and tree huggers. If you stay true to your values, they're going to have to call you the majority.
Kander values expand Obamacare, higher job-killing taxes, even a huge new energy tax, more Washington policy mandates.
They're going to call you pinkos, commies, lefties, activists, liberals, and tree huggers.
Jason Kander, wrong for the U.S. Senate, wrong for Missouri.
I'm Roy Blunt, and I approve this message.
As Attorney General, I prosecuted crooked Wall Street banks and Medicaid fraud, returning over $500 million to you, all while operating my office under budget every year. The only time my opponent managed a budget, he was caught taking $700,000 from his veterans charity. Now, Eric Greitens says experience shouldn't matter. I'm Chris Koster, and I say Governor of Missouri is not an entry-level job.
Koster for governor.
Welcome back to our Opinion Maker panel from Kansas City. We're joined by Representative John Carpenter, Kansas City. Representative Jeremy LaFavor, South Kansas City, right?
Good to be here,
yeah. Vernacular. Danny Fiver, super lobbyist from the Kansas City area. Glad to have you back, sir.
Good to be back.
Representative Kolkmeyer, you've made a trip over to St. Louis. We're glad to be here in your neck of the woods in Kansas City.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Welcome to Kansas City.
Thank you, sir. Let's talk about the governor's race, John Carpenter. There's probably not been a more interesting thing from the moment it started right up until 10 days out, 9 days out than the governor's race has been. Where do you think it's at right now?
I have a lot of faith in a future Chris Koster governorship. If I was offering a prediction right now, I think he's not only going to win, I think he's going to win soundly. I think he's clearly the better choice, the more experienced choice, and the only one who knows how to do the job on day one.
Jim Laver, looks like Koster had a few good weeks coming out of the gate.
Absolutely.
Looks like he's got the Hillary Clinton anchor. But one thing that's been interesting is Greitens has now started to hang Obamacare around him. And I think maybe that issue, as well as the presidential race tightening, I mean, the numbers are tight. Our latest poll this week in the Missouri Times said at 47-45 Koster.
It's going to be an absolute dogfight down to the end. I think it's particularly difficult. You know, Chris Koster is swimming upstream in a change election year, but he's decided, and his campaign has decided, to double down on the experience thing. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, in a state where Trump is likely to win, to see if Koster can also win, really putting out sort of a contrast message to that.
Representative Kohlmeyer, it's an interesting race. There's a lot of Republicans that have some trepidations. You've done a lot of work to clean up the General Assembly. Now come out with probably the least transparent act in Missouri political history, taking a $2 million contribution. Do you think Koster's done enough to hang that around his neck? And it looks like the Republicans, Greitens included, are starting to have a bit of a groundswell of support with Republicans coming home.
Koster definitely started off with a lead, but you know, there's a lot of mudslinging on both sides. But Greitens now has the momentum right here at the end, and I'm hopeful that he can pull this off right here at the last 10 days.
In the primary, he was down.
Yes.
Momentum at the end, won a big victory.
Yes.
I don't know that a two-person race, I don't think you have such a big swing, but I do think he's probably peaking at the right time.
Yes, absolutely.
Danny Viper, an interesting thing, and there's a lot of Republicans that have the choice between to support the Republican or the conservative. Some folks supported the Republican, some folks supported the conservative.
Right.
I will say this, though. You can't really hang guns on Chris Koster, who's endorsed by the NRA.
Right.
Farm Bureau is endorsed by the Farm Bureau.
Correct.
Joe Maxwell, the former Democrat lieutenant governor, animal rights activist, is with Eric Greitens.
Yeah.
But there is an issue in Obamacare that Greitens is hanging around Koster's neck, and it looks like it's showing some success with it.
Yeah, and that may be right. I think that both candidates are at the point where they have to pick what narrative they want to drive in these last couple of weeks. It's clear that the Greitens campaign is going to pivot to Obamacare and try to use that as a wedge to bring home, I guess, Republican voters who have at least in some early polling indicated they were supporting Koster. And Koster is clearly going to continue to drive the narrative of dark money and that Greitens isn't really an outsider and that he's playing politics better than the politicians. With the shell games around political contributions and other things. So I think it's pretty clear now, about 10 so days to go, that's how this campaign is going to finish, and we'll see which message resonates better with voters.
John Carpenter, does it scare you to see Joe Maxwell, very successful statesman, statewide elected official, leading animal rights activist, with Eric Greitens?
It doesn't scare me, no. You know, like I said, Governor Koster from day one has shown that he's the candidate who can do the job. You know, Eric Greitens might be running a campaign where he's raised a lot of money, but there's questions surrounding that. There's a lot of dark money that's coming to him. There's money that has clearly come from his nonprofit donors, which is illegal, and you know, nobody's been able to explain that away. So. Not every Democrat is going to support Chris Koster, but that doesn't concern me. At the end of the day, I think that Chris Koster will get the vast majority of Democrats in the state of Missouri voting for him. And I think it's a big win for Governor Koster.
Representative Kohlmeyer, does what scare you, an ad of Chris Koster in southern Missouri holding a gun endorsed by the NRA, not talking about socialized health care, but talking about the issues that matter in South Missouri, which would be guns, which would be farming? Is that the ad you don't want to see this coming week?
That's correct, yes. Yes.
Danny Pfeiffer, that's the ad he could probably legitimately pull off.
Yeah.
Looks like Eric Greitens may be plucking a few Democrats disaffected with Koster. Koster's path to victory. There's not enough Democrats to win a statewide. There's probably not enough Republicans, really, but there's independents, generally a little more conservative. What you've seen is Republicans in southern Missouri coming home to the Republican candidate. Does he have to do something to remind folks who he is?
I think that's exactly what you're going to see. I think Chris is going to continue to run the same campaign in outstate that he's ran for the last 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and that he's ran for the last year while he's been campaigning, talking about his credentials, the work that he's done, and the support that he's garnered from people like Farm Bureau and NRA.
Jeremy LeFevre, there's two people I know when this campaign started that said, not only does Jason Kander, is it the smart move, is it tactically smart, but he can win, and I think he will win. Barry Aycock and yourself, what did you see then that's coming to bear now?
You first start out with the national framework where Back then, it was looking like it was Clinton and Bush going to run, and everybody didn't want that, and so we were moving away. Right, we were moving away from that sort of trajectory, or it was a change election that was shaping up. Then you take two candidates who could not contrast themselves any differently. You've got an Iraq war hero versus a draft dodger. You've got a young generation leader versus the old political sort of team and the old political monster of the state. Politics aside, you put those two people up in a change year, I think the wins clearly favor Jason Kander, and I have the benefit of knowing Jason and Diana and Abe RACHAEL very personally. Those three individually are the best political minds in the state. Collectively, they could be the best political minds in our country, and I think the nation is starting to see that play out.
Mr. Colmeyer, clearly Jason Kander is a great politician.
Yes,
I mean,
he
he's
is.
been very talented.
Yes.
What I would say is, the question I think a lot of Missourians may have is, obviously they're impressed with the guy. They've elected him to statewide office. They've given him a look, and nobody really thought, outside of a few people, this race would be where it is now. Is the national tide going to be too much for Jason Kander to overcome? And let's keep in mind, Roy Blunt, while he has served the public for a long time, has done a lot of good things for the state.
Absolutely. You know, Senator Blunt's done good things for Missouri. It is definitely going to be an uphill battle for Kander.
So, John Garber, last week I noticed something that really puzzled me. Elizabeth Warren comes to Missouri to campaign. I don't know of many Missourians that think like Elizabeth Warren, but then he brings Joe Biden, who I think might be the most popular politician in the country. What was the Elizabeth Warren about, and what does the Joe Biden stop do for him?
Well, I think in any election, you know, there are two tracks, right? And one of the tracks is you got to make sure that you get your base energized, and I think nobody does that better in the United States today than Elizabeth Warren on the Democratic side. So I think it was a smart move. And plus, you know, I think she does have some crossover appeal. I think when she talks about, you know, a rigged system that's holding people back, you know, I think a lot of the Trump supporters can understand that. You know, nobody talks about things being rigged against them more than the Donalds. So, but she's actually right. I mean, she identifies some Wall Street power that goes against the interests of everyday people, and a lot of those people, I think, should vote Democratic.
Danny Viver is a Native American. She probably knows what she's talking about, right?
Well, I don't know about that. And I don't know about her Native American credentials. I'd leave that to others.
A little odd, yeah, a little odd.
I would leave that to others.
Let's wrap this segment up with predictions. Where does this Senate race end up? Give me the margin.
Blunt by 2.
What do you think?
A narrow Blunt victory.
Narrow Blunt victory?
Kander 3, since Trump only wins the state by 3.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that Jason wins and is our next U.S. Senator, and I agree with Representative Favor. I think Trump barely ekes out a victory in Missouri.
Wow.
And like I said, I think a big, possibly double-digit victory for Governor Koster. However, all the Democrats out there need to get out and vote because these elections are going to be close.
Give me the prediction on the governor's race.
Koster by 7.
7? I don't see Trump by 3. I see Trump 5 at the minimum, right?
I think Trump maybe by 4 or 5, Koster by 2 or 3.
If we get Trump 10, 12, 14, we'll see
I'm
a
seeing
great
Trump closer
governor.
to 10 than 3, for sure, yeah. I think that may be right. Predicting a good year for the Democrats here. We're going to come back, talk a little Kansas City issues on This Week in Missouri Politics, live from Kansas City.
Congressman Russ Carnahan's record? In Washington, Carnahan sided with Barack Obama on Wall Street bailouts, Obamacare, and a job-killing national energy tax. Don't let Russ Carnahan do the same to Missouri.
I'm Mike Parson. I know how to create jobs. It's why I fought to balance the budget every year without raising taxes. As your lieutenant governor, I'll stand up to the special interests, get our economy moving, and provide more opportunities for hardworking middle-class families.
At Amber, Missouri, we're committed to providing cleaner energy for generations to come. Our new state-of-the-art solar energy center is a great example of that commitment. It's part of our long-range plan to deliver more than 30% of our power from cleaner resources, making sure your energy future is not just brighter, but cleaner too. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Politicians are like pigs at the trough.
Income tax, property tax, payroll tax, gas tax, state, county, and city sales taxes that can run a dime on the dollar. Now the politicians and bureaucrats want new sales taxes on the services we use every day. Services like rent, daycare, doctor visits, car and house repairs, delivery, even haircuts. It's enough to make you squeal. Protect Missourians from these new taxes by voting yes for Amendment 4, the Taxpayer Protection Amendment.
Barack Obama paid Judy Baker nearly $250 grand to push Obamacare in Missouri. And Baker implemented a disastrous law that is driving up our health premiums, hurting Missouri families, killing jobs. Judy Baker, more Obamacare, more taxes, more job-destroying mandates. Baker is wrong for Missouri. Eric Schmidt is on our side. Schmidt opposes Obamacare, and he's fighting for lower health care costs and better paying jobs. Eric Schmidt for treasurer.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We're here at Kansas City. KCMI Representative Kolkmeyer, I want to start with you. I want to take a break from politics. Give me an issue that matters in Kansas City that the rest of the state does not see. Now that we're on completely statewide, all the way from Kansas to Illinois, tell me what's an issue that's talked about here that you don't think gets enough attention across the state? The
border war between Kansas and Missouri. The ping pong of companies jumping back and forth across the border. And it's something that we as Missourians need to really take a look at. We just lost the Kansas City Royal, the Royal, the barbecue. It's now going over to the Kansas side. I heard on the way in here today that they're actually going to build an arena over there, so now the rodeo will be over there. So, you know, that's concerning.
What's an issue that is important in Kansas City that you don't think folks in Jefferson City, Columbia, St. Louis hear enough about?
You know, I think it's that Kansas City's a booming city. I think that people are moving in. I think that businesses are locating here. We talk about the earnings tax. There are some folks in Jeff City and some mega donors in this state that want to take away the ability for Kansas City to fund vital services. And we do that largely through our city earnings tax, which is overwhelmingly supported, of course, and you know, has been renewed by the voters of Kansas City. And you know, I think what it proves is that it's not scaring people off. People are choosing to move into Kansas City, especially downtown. People are choosing to live here and start their businesses here, and not scared away at all by that tax and the importance that we're going to have in the legislature to make sure that some mega donors don't take that away from us.
Jay Lather, what's an issue that you've seen? You serve in the legislature now you're transitioning into private business. What's an issue you're seeing that doesn't get enough attention?
I think one of the big things is what a tech hub Kansas City is for upcoming tech companies, startup tech companies that are looking to relocate here to serve the big industries that are growing here. I think with Garmin and Sprint and as those companies those workers have left those companies and moved into
Centene,
other private enterprises.
KCP&L is going to be a Fortune 500 company here in Kansas City.
Kansas City is certainly in the middle of the country, and with Google Fiber and everything that's going on, I think over the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see Kansas City become a tech hub that is unlike we've seen in a lot of other cities in the country.
Danny Fiver, your business spreads out across the whole state.
Yep.
You get to see the St. Louis business community, you see the mid-Missouri, and Kansas City, obviously, where you live. I've always felt like there are issues that are important in Kansas City that do not get enough attention. But I will say this: if you talk to someone in St. Louis now, you get a kind of a depressing vibe sometimes.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody in Kansas City, they're pumped.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe. What do you think something's happening here that people should know about?
There's absolutely something happening here. Those of us who live here know it's been happening for many years now. And Representative LaFavor, for a few more days. Really kind of stole my thunder. It's what I wanted to talk about is the fact that there is an underpinning with the entrepreneurial spirit here that's been developed and cultivated through the Kauffman Foundation, with Google Fiber coming. There is a groundwork that has been laid, I think, or a foundation that has been created, I think, for tremendous economic opportunity to be generated here that very few other people know. While other cities, St. Louis and others, talk about losing Fortune 500 companies, losing jobs, we fight about whether jobs move across the state line. But as a region, Kansas City is doing some really, really unique and amazing things related to technology and entrepreneurialism that sort of gets lost sometimes in the conversation in Jefferson City.
Let's talk some of these down ballot races now. We heard Representative Sirpoy say good Republican year means they sweep the 3 competitive House seats. I've noticed the Republicans have started playing in the 11th in Senator Vota's former seat.
Yes.
J.J. Rizzo, somebody that everyone in Jeff City knows. Britt Lassiter, people know in Jefferson City.
Yes.
I would be very surprised to see that. That is a district I assume was a Democratic district.
It's very Democrat. It's going to be an uphill battle for Lassiter, but yeah, the Republicans are starting to play in that race.
Dave Ivor, you've worked in Republican politics. Is this some kind of diversionary thing, or are they seeing something with the Trump movement and that other people aren't seeing?
We've heard that. I've not seen that there was polling in the district that indicated that Trump was doing very well there. So that could be that could be a reason. I also think that if you look at the amount of money that Republicans have raised versus the amount of money Democrats have raised, they have a lot of money to spend.
Sure.
So there's a degree to which you look at the competitive races around the state, which there aren't many. This is a place where maybe they can spend a little extra money, keep Democrats spending money there. To prevent them from spending other places, and we'll see. But I really think more than anything, it's Republican resources. Republicans have a significant resource advantage.
If Trump's at 10 or 12 points, Representative, he's got to win Eastern Jackson County to do that, right?
Yes, he does.
And Scott, can I just
are you seeing that? Or what's going on there that other people aren't seeing?
Well, I think part of it points out is that in a state that has absolutely no limits on campaign finances and the amount of money that can pour into these campaigns, Republicans have millions of dollars to throw around. And so, yeah, you take a Democratic district like the 11th Senatorial District, and, they're not going to win it. Representative Rizzo is going to win that race, but they have so much money, so many hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend, because they can take unlimited donations. They can take $1 million checks and $2 million checks. Though. Well, sure, but where's most of the money going? Most of the money goes to Republican candidates. I mean, that's just a matter of facts and numbers.
I saw a press conference with Jason Kander talking about the need for campaign finance reform. Do you think it's hard now that you're starting to get a different perspective? You're starting to molt back into regular constituent Jeremy LaFavor. It looks a little hard to sell that, okay, we need campaign finance reform, but I didn't do it. The law was what it was, and I took big checks. I understand the political reality nuance, but I think for a lot of folks, it's hard to see, well, if you needed it, why'd you take all the big money?
Well, I think most folks, regular people, I liken it to kind of baseball. And if you look at American League Baseball, yeah, maybe we don't like the designated hitter, but just because I don't like it doesn't mean that I'm going to throw my batter or my pitcher out there to hit. I'm going to play the game with the rules that I've got. Yeah, I would like to change the rules, and I'm going to do everything that I can to change them. But in the meantime, I'm going to play with the set of rules that I've got because Democrats and Republicans are trying to play to win.
Speaking of prediction time, down ballot races, who wins and by how much in lieutenant governor race?
Yeah, I think Russ Carnahan wins that race by several points.
Several?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Senator Parson has gotten his message out there. I don't think a lot of people know who he is, and whereas that Carnahan name is a well-respected name in this state and always will be.
Carnahan name takes it by default by 2.
Carnahan name's tough to overcome. Yeah. I think if Trump runs strong enough, Parson could win. The polling has been reasonably tight. Yeah. Carnahan's certainly not running away with it.
I'm surprised by how tight it was.
So I think Parson's got a shot.
Parson's trending, so I'm with Danny.
I think in the scenario you see of a Trump by 10, Parson wins. Yes. And maybe in the scenario you see of a Trump by 3, or maybe
by 3.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a 1.5.
You're going to take a margin of error on this? I like that. The margin of error. I think in your scenario, maybe it's the case.
He's the most ridiculous candidate to have ever run for president in the history of the country. He's not going to win Missouri by 10. Or God, let's hope so.
I saw on Saturday Night Live, though, that Hillary Clinton was saying all the bad things about him, and the anchor goes, but you're only winning by 5 points. We're the worst person ever. It'd be interesting. I want to thank everybody here. We want to really thank all of the folks here at KCMI. It's been great for us. Look forward to joining you every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock on 30 at this spot, and we'll be back in Kansas City in December to tape another episode of This Week in Missouri Politics.